You'll never go out on a train ride and dig that deep.
Often we won gold.
They're life rides.
I'm like, dude, I'm still figuring this out.
Lose sight of the fact that it's whoever goes faster.
Yo, this isn't a road race. This isn't a mountain bike race.
The sensei of sprint, Todd Shefty.
My eyes are coming out of my head. Just get in here.
All right, well, that was a barn burner of a race, wasn't it?
Dude, the mud. Oh my God.
The mud is crazy.
It looked like they weren't moving forward at times. I was like in pain. That's how I feel racing cyclocross on a dry course, though. Just fair enough.
Oh,
like that's what I look
no
like
kidding.
every time. But holy cow.
Yeah, and I mean, I think everybody involved, and I think the men have watched this race and know what's coming as well. And I think, in all the lead up and everything, we knew that there was going to be a lot of running. We knew it was going to be super hard, and I think, and what did we talk about with his women's predictions? We're talking about, I said, somebody's going to come out of the backfield where we haven't been watching, and boy, sure enough, if Gilbert didn't just Sonny Gilbert pull off just an amazing ride that not on anybody's radar, right? You're looking at all these predictions, looking at all these things. Boom, here she comes. She's been kind of in the background. Yeah, she's been playing in some of these bigger races. Right. You start looking at some of these results. But boy, talk about a ride of your life, and really the conditions had to have been instrumental in pulling that off of her.
Oh, I think they're perfect for her. I mean, she does well in muddy races. Surprise, surprise. She's a two-time All-American track star from Missouri, so she's a runner. There you go. That helps out a lot.
There you go.
And I was reading a little bit about her in the race. She's a biochemist with a PhD, so she's got a full-time gig and she's out there doing this, which I think is just kind of the cool backstory. But no doubt that the conditions are well suited for her.
Yeah, I mean it's I don't know. I'm almost a loss for words because I'm looking at the star list and I'm like, who is this? Who is this number? I don't remember what her number was now, but it was like a number 3 or something. I'm like, who is this person? I'm going to look it up real fast, and it's like, yep. And sure enough, and it interrupted my picks, right? So I had Compton and Noble, and but I really thought Keogh was going to come in there, and Keogh didn't. But arguably not far out of the mix either. Fifth place, still a really solid ride from Katie Keogh and Farringer. Farringer, I think we've been talking about as being somebody lurking on the edge. Again, straight there. She's nipping on the heels. And she was in a mix with Gilbert and Noble even early in the race, like 20 minutes into the race. She was solid. They had this little group going back on, and she faded and kept coming back, really kind of duking it out. But Gilbert really kind of got into that mix with the three of them, and I think she looked like she really started kind of pushing that on them, and it really kind of put Noble on the back foot a little bit.
Yeah, I think she knew she could push the pace on the running for sure, and definitely saw Farringer fade a little bit, but a lot of toughness out of her to stick with that group and to land that fourth place finish. And then, of course, the story of the day is 15 now for the Queen, right? Not even close, right?
Yeah, I mean, she comfortably over a minute. I think the last lap, the impetus is even gone. She kind of had a rhythm going, but she definitely didn't need to push anything at that point. Solidly over a minute, and really even going into the last lap, I mean, she didn't look like she had lost anything, and then just form was right on. I think Compton really came through and showed what a professional she really is. I think, it's something we talked about, and I think she really kind of dispelled any kind of thought that maybe she didn't have enough. I doubt it, right? I don't know. Maybe she's not going to have enough. There's going to be a lot of running, and maybe it's a little too much. Maybe she's, given her age, being how many times she's been out there with that much running, maybe it's going to chip it down. But she took it right from the beginning, pushed into it, headlong into it, and just never looked back. And you saw some punches coming back and forth, figurative punches between Noble and Gilbert with one to go. There's a big fight going on back there with us who just attack and counterattack and coming back and right out of the pits, and Gilbert got a little pinch. I think Noble was trying to be a little tactical, trying to take the line a little bit, but I think Gilbert had it together, and I think it sets the stage for when you talk about is there going to be dynasties? And well, here you have somebody inserting themselves.
Yeah.
Right, and there you go,
Mixing
up
it
the
up,
order,
right? Yeah, I felt for Ellen though. I think it was just the worst conditions for her as a racer, and she stayed tough and fought the whole time. But I think that it's really, really tough for her to have to come in and race a course that just does not suit her at all coming in. Whereas on a faster course, I think it's a much different outcome for her.
Oh, definitely, and and Noble didn't give up. I mean, I think it's hard when you're in a place where you don't want to be. It's one lap to go. You really want to be vying for the win, or at least be silver, and you're fighting for that silver bronze spot. And and I think when Gilbert crashed there on the last lap, she closed in 5 seconds. She was digging hard. They were going through that pit area. She was still fighting hard right up to the end, and she didn't give anything away for sure. I'm sure there was frustration, and I think there was disappointment, but I think she fought right up to the line. And honestly, she wanted to still be on that proper podium, that third place. Farringer is breathing down her neck. There's no time for pouting or disappointment about the great ride that Gilbert had.
Sure.
And
so we're going to show you a little clip here from our interview with Katie Compton earlier in the week. We'll play the whole thing on our YouTube channel a little later next week. But check out the clip from Katie, and then we'll come back and we'll talk a little bit about the men's race that's coming up.
A little bit of both. It depends on the day, depends on the moment. Sometimes I'm like, I won 14. If I don't win, it's not the big deal. I'm kind of not stressing about it. But then the thought of not winning, it's like, I really like wearing the stars and stripes, and I really like winning. So it's kind of both. Every year I'm fairly grateful for being able to win, having the fitness and the health and the luck. Everything's been on my side lately, or the last 14 years I've done it. So I really enjoy winning. So I do everything I can to make it happen again.
As we were just talking about Gilbert, right? Nobody talked about.
Oh my gosh, came out of nowhere. I think if I had a guess, I'd have to say with that amount of mud and her long legs, I mean, gosh, I think she was just able to run past everybody. It seemed she was the fastest running.
Yeah, I think it definitely suited her, but even saw she was crafty in the really hard to ride sections.
Yeah.
Saw some half pedal stuff that she did, and good, just excellent skills.
Yeah.
When it was just really dicey, saw her kind of go through this section that she was kind of half riding, and that Ellen pulled off some amazing stuff. And Gilbert, I don't know if you weren't watching closely, had a little crash in the last lap as well.
Yeah.
Where Ellen was trying to get back to her, but I think the gap was a little too big. But it seems like the running was a big play. Could be a big play coming up too.
I think so. I mean, just watching those women definitely changes, or will probably change some predictions for today. The amount that they were able or not able to ride today. Obviously, Katie Compton was, again, just kind of head and shoulders above everyone else, and congratulations to her. That's amazing. She was able to ride what many others weren't, and just maintain that speed. But
so how do we do with fantasy people? Who's our pick winners?
Well, we don't have it all tabulated for our in-house fantasy winners for the women's side yet, but I will say Katie Compton was the favorite on most people's lists, so that prediction did come true. Beyond that, Katie Keogh was right up there for second or third for a lot of people. Obviously was not on the 1, 2, 3 there.
Anybody pick Gilbert in the top?
I got Gilbert as a couple down in the 5th, 6th, 7th range.
Okay.
But
all right.
yeah, I think she was definitely the black horse there, coming up, getting herself in second place.
How about on the men's side? What are the fantasy picks? You can hear the bar party kind of picking up here. We got all kinds of people here enjoying the food and hanging out here at Hook and Spoon. So we got our fantasy picks for the bar party. How about the men? How are we doing there? What do you think?
Well, from what the consensus here at the party is, Stephen Hyde's going to take it again. So we got Hyde.
Questions on Stephen.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, well, no, I guess a lot of pressure, but I guess when you're the reigning champ, there's always that added pressure to maintain and kind of where yeah, exactly. But we got Stephen Hyde, Kerry Werner's another name that's right up there for first, second, third. So again, among the favorites. And from there, it gets a little dicier. We've got Curtis White being mentioned a lot, teammates with Hyde. Jeremy Powers, Anthony Clark, Gage Hecht, definitely making his presence felt, kind of stepping away from the U23s and going right into that elite. I think a lot of people see that as a vote of confidence for him. So it's going to be difficult with that running. Gosh, it's
Right. Well, we saw it in the women's race, right?
yeah, exactly.
Somebody that we
Bet on a
were
runner,
talking
right?
about, and we're a little off our radar, but certainly a solid performer.
We need to
And
go through deeper in that list and find out who is like a college track star that we're not talking
Exactly,
about
yeah.
that might come in and come down and
Today's
run.
about carrying your bike, not
Right.
riding.
Yeah.
So Tim, give us your top picks. What's your personal take on the picks? today?
Well, I'll say after seeing the women's, I think my pre-race picks might be a little bit off. I had Stephen Hyde doing the repeat here. I had Curtis White in second, and maybe a sentimental pick here, but I thought Jeremy coming off of his lack of having too much fatigue in the legs, I thought he might pull out another a great result. I got to say though, with that amount of running, with that amount of mud, Jeremy is not a great mud rider. I think I might have.
I think I got better.
I think you did. We were talking earlier, and I think you were right. I think Kerry Werner has to be up there. He looks pretty good over at Supercross, and that was definitely muddy. It's a tough one. Anthony Clark could always get in there too. I'm gonna stick with Hyde as the winner, but beyond that. Really, I mean, with this amount of mud, somebody breaks a derailleur, something, it's really hard to predict.
I don't think we saw any mechanicals in the women's race. I didn't see any mechanicals.
No, it didn't seem to have a big impact. Maybe with Keogh, because she was so early, was just out of the mix, and it was hard to tell on the live feed where that was at. But it was even from the first lap, I didn't see much of her, so I'm wondering if there was an issue there that we'll hear about later.
We did hear about Noble missing part of her shoe. I don't know if she ever got that changed, if it was loose. Who knows how that was going out there either. So some of the things we look at, maybe look, she lost a little ground and she couldn't get back to Gilbert. How much of that is mechanicals that we didn't see?
Right.
So we're looking at the bike, thinking, well, the bike looks fine, looks like it's rolling. When your shoe's coming off, not only is it hard to pedal mechanically, but in your head. Right? It's not like you can't get clipped in.
Right, yeah, you're missing that pedal.
You're fueling with that, and it's distracting you from what you're trying to do. And then you got to on and off and running. The shoes not coming off, big distraction. Hard to say. It would be interesting to talk to Ellen later and find out kind of what was the story going on for her.
Yeah.
Sure.
Just like you said, the post race is going to really tell the tale because what we see versus what actually happened, who knows? Yeah,
we're only seeing parts of it.
Yeah.
So how about your picks for the men's race, Todd? What are you thinking?
I'm sticking with my picks. I'm sticking with Kerry Werner. I think it's Kerry's year to carry Stars and Stripes. Stephen, I know, man, you've been carrying it and you've come back. I see Hecht joining the fray here. He's good when it's sloppy. I think he's young, he's hungry, he's good when it's sloppy. I think Werner's going to carry the day, though. Hyde's going to be there. And I think Hyde's going to push. And I think that push might cost him a mistake. And I think they're going to capitalize. They're going to get in that mud. They're going to be running. I think that's where he's going to have his tough time. And he's going to have Clark breathing down his neck, making him trying to avoid mistakes. Because Anthony's relaxed. He's chill. He knows what he's got to do, but he's got no pressure.
Yeah.
And he can run.
Yeah.
So, and then I think you got White and Powers in that mix somewhere. Definitely race effectors. Don't think they're voting. So I think it's Werner, Hecht, and then Hyde.
Well, I would probably change my picks after seeing that women's race, but I won't. I'll give you my pre-race picks. I think Gage is going to come out and shock everybody and take the win. I don't think he gave up the U23 for nothing. I think he's going to come in and he knows he can win. I think after that it's going to be Hyde. He's won too many and been in too many bad situations and knows how to come out of it. And then I think tweak with the running. I think Anthony Clark can shock people, although I didn't put Kerry in there. And if I had to change my mind now, I think that that's a pretty good one. But I'm gonna move him out of it. And then I think Powers too is going to be a contender. I think the mud, he's Jeremy Powers. So I'm not betting against him until he's in a wheelchair. And even then, it's Jeremy Powers.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Katie Compton kind of puts a real exclamation point on anybody thinking anybody's too old.
Right.
Exactly.
So
Experience.
and being calm in these conditions that they got today, and just really having a good game plan, and being adaptable. And I think that's where Anthony is going to. Anthony Clark's going to be strong. He's being adaptable. He's flexible. He's not locked into something that he thinks he has to do. So I think that makes him strong in this kind of a situation.
And there's no pressure on him too, and I don't think he's putting any pressure on himself. I don't think there's any pressure for anybody else. I know a lot of us here are fans of his, so we're excited to see what that result comes for him.
See how the El Camino goes in the mud.
That's right, the El Camino.
87.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us here in between the races. We're going to end our broadcast here so you can head over to USA Cycling and watch the men's elite. And then we'll be back with a little post-race wrap-up at roughly 3:45. So we'll see you then. Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the men's elite race.
Stuff to write on. All right, we're back. So that was a fantastic race. What do you guys think? overall?
No, that was a barn burner. Hard to believe the level of athleticism out there. Seeing those guys just absolutely plow through the mud for a whole hour. Glad it wasn't me.
Yeah, that was incredible.
I think you see though, even how hard that mud is to ride in. When you see guys like Werner, Hecht, late in the race, barely dismounting, right? And it's like, and we've all been there, right? You get that thick mud and you do that kind of running, how knotted up your lower back is, right? And you're just, you see that the spring in their step is gone, right? And it's like 30 minutes into this race.
Just trudging.
Exactly.
I mean, even Hyde winning the race, was it the last lap or second to last? He went over the handlebars. That's just a matter of fatigue. When you're plowing through that much thick mud, running, riding, I mean, it's just taking it all out.
Taxing, man. So taxing.
Nothing there physically, mentally. It's
when you see all this change up, right? I mean, Hyde didn't open that gap up on White until it was 53 minutes in the race. I mean, he's coming into that last lap. They're in the last lap. White was still leading, and to have Hyde open that gap up and just be able to put that kind of surge in late in the day over a guy like Curtis White. It wasn't some club rider that was out there.
And that was. I mean, I look at that as just a picture of just sheer fitness. Like it wasn't like that wasn't like a heart attack that went off and suddenly there was this gap that formed. It was just chinks in the armor, man. Like he got a little gap on him, and then just slowly, pedal stroke by pedal stroke, 1 foot after the next through the mud, he opened that up, and it was a real true blue race of attrition.
There was a lot of changes early on. I mean, not right at the front, but right in that middle section. That fifth through third had a lot of changes throughout the race where you could see that sort of that attrition that you were looking at.
That's a great point, and I think as you watch this race unfold, and you guys, I mean, listening to this thing unfolding, you got guys like Cody Kaiser, like who's this Cody Kaiser? He's up there early in the race, right? I mean, and you look through and you're like, Max Chance, and some of these guys are like, they faded back, but there was guys really coming in there and making a name. And then all of a sudden, like, you had this chunk of like 4 through 10 where there was a lot going on back there. We had the El Camino in there. He fighting it out,
absolutely.
Right?
He got eighth, man. He got eighth.
Fantastic ride from him.
Great ride by Clark. I mean, you think about a guy like that who, Curtis White has what, like he's 8 inches taller.
Right.
You think about the amount of running, the amount of fatigue, just 1 foot in front of the other. This is not pedal strokes where we're all, kind of equals. We all have that mechanical advantage. You think about running through that for a guy like that, and it's just what a slog, what a battle.
When he made it up there to Hecht, and the two of them, Clark and Hecht, were fighting for third and fourth place. Man, it was exciting. Again,
very dramatic.
Clark ended up floating back a little, but then you've got the reverse of that, a veteran like Powers, who early in the race was nowhere. I mean, he's 12, 15.
He was 12th in like the first 2 minutes. And remember, his before race time, like I went further and fifth back. All of a sudden, here he is coming in fifth. There's a crash right in the opening stretch, right? So it's kind of chaos right out of the gate.
Yeah.
You got hole shot. You got White taking the hole shot. You got Hyde. Conservative, right? We talked about Hyde's conservative coming into the whole shot. He was. I don't know how conservative he'd be in second. I'm talking conservative. I'm like maybe 10th, right? But up there, the Hecht pulling in there, squeezing in between there, definitely trying to divide it up, get in there early, get out of trouble. You can see everybody's mentality. How Powers ends up in 12th, not quite sure. But man, kudos to him going 12th to 5th. By the finish, as you watch this race, he just
that's just the savoriness of the champion, right? I mean, he just knows and I'm sure Powers is never shooting for a 5th place finish. To him, that's not something he's but he's got to be proud of that ride.
He's still very reminiscent of his performance at in North Carolina, where very similar start. Maybe people were like kind of watching that race, kind of ruling him out a little bit, and he ends up like taking it to the line for second place with Curtis White. He got sprinted there, but still, I mean, to have the late season fitness to just absolutely fight your way up into.
In a course that doesn't favor you.
No,
You know what I mean? A fast course, like where does
right.
Powers finish on a faster course, right?
Yeah,
on that race, right?
The fitness and just the mental tenacity too, where he's going for the win and he's nowhere near it. But he doesn't give up, he doesn't panic. He's able to fight his way up, picking his right lines if there is such a thing as a line on that course. But he knows when to run, when to ride, left to the right, So obviously he dissected that as he went and got better and better and moved his way through the pack.
Absolutely. One of the guys I think we saw hurt, and it was my pick, was Kerry Warner. I think something's up with Kerry today. We'll have to try to catch up with him at some point and see. I mean, it's just like he was just in a fight out there all day.
Yeah.
And, he stayed in the mix, still coming in sixth. Not a horrible ride by any stretch of the imagination with the level of guys that are out there, but he just didn't seem like he could really find his rhythm. He kept staying in that same space. Guys were changing that dynamic around him, and he kind of stayed there.
He was kind of he was almost like stalemated there.
Fourth
in that
to
like
sixth, he was right there.
for sure.
Well, let me ask you guys this, because going in, watching the course and everything, does USA Cycling make a mistake by having such a muddy, wet course that's so difficult when you're trying to reach fans who are not necessarily traditional cycling fans? Like, I'm thinking about last year's race, a faster course where lead changes are happening, you can reel people back, you can respond. I mean, a course like that, it just blows up right away. Like, should we be looking at courses that are faster and more dynamic? And maybe to Katie Compton's point, also having races that are shorter. I mean, she told us Wednesday night, she said the women shouldn't race for longer, the men should race for shorter, right?
Interesting.
She said, so should we be looking at shorter men's races and faster races that are more dynamic, that don't allow for that sort of stretching out right away? Or is this cyclocross and that's just what happens?
Well, I'm going to say this as a non-cyclocross competitor, right? I did cross many years ago, so when everybody asked me if I ever done cross years ago. But I look at it as what do we want that sport to be, right? And it's like, arguably, there's a lot of change-up in this race. Hyde and White were at it the whole time, up until a lap to go.
Completely.
Lots of change-up, right?
Yep.
So when they weren't holding anything back on each other, I think they were generally. You also had this other group there that basically, beyond Heck, you had 4 through 7. A lot of change-up going on. You had guys like Dillman coming in, you had guys like Thompson coming in that crept their way in there, pushed other guys out. So I think even though the course is hard, now to the time element, part of that, the winning times like 103, 104, something like that. You got guys streaming in. Your top 10 is coming in like 110.
Sure.
So that's a long slog. On a hard course like that, maybe that's something I think Katie may be onto, is keeping that shorter, keeping a harder dynamic. But I don't think it really showed up in this race, other than it went long. I think he's had a lot of change up because it was hard, because of the course nature of being like that.
Now, I think that's a really interesting point of discussion. I think that Katie's onto something, and to maybe disagree with Todd a little bit, I think it would have been interesting to finish that race a lap early, where you have, maybe you have Hyde and White coming into a sprint finish. Maybe that group again, Hecht is in kind of in his own little world there in third place, but you have that group behind him coming in a little bit more compact. Maybe there's a little bit of it gets a little dynamic towards the finish there. But for an hour in conditions like that, I mean, we just watched a foot race. We watched a foot race.
Right.
I don't know what percentage. Frankly, I'm blown away that those guys were out there riding the percentage of the course they were. I mean, if we look at any other field today, we're going to see the elite men were really riding a much higher percentage.
Sure.
And that tailed off throughout the race, but they were riding a tremendously high percentage of the course. But still, they were on foot a lot of the time, and I think the fatigue. I don't know how many people know what it's like to shoulder your bike and run on any surface, let alone ankle deep mud. This is brutal. This is not.
I'm thinking of that dynamic. Remember, imagine that race dynamic at Gloucester and what we saw at Gloucester this year with the changes in the attacks and this sort of like. Not to bring it into road, but it sort of had a little road element on that off course. I thought the racing was so exciting, and it was like with this field, I would have loved to see that, as opposed to that muddy section. So
again, it's a give and take, and I think you want to be a good racer on a fast course, a technical course. I mean, it's a different skill set. So you're going to see different riders performing better or worse depending on the field, or rather depending on the course. If you look at some of the European races, you get a lot of that flavor. So some races are really wooded and muddy. Other races you get long sand sections, big run-ups. So when American racers especially go over to Europe, a lot of times they struggle because I think historically we've had a little bit easier courses, your Gloucesters and the like. So I don't know if it's necessarily a bad thing. I think it's a different dynamic that maybe American racers still need to develop a little bit more of that because, again, we see the Belgians and the last few years we've had a couple of kind of front runners between Van der Poel and Van Aert, but
well, those races end up the same, right? It's
again,
like one person running away,
and then a pack in third, fourth, fifth, sixth. So again, there's the courses. I think it's an interesting point, but I think some riders are just going to perform better on dry courses. It's going to be more that road feel, the big, fast, powerful guys, and then maybe you're a little bit more finesse riders with that technical ability, or the long-legged runners, cross-country runners are going to do well today.
Some of it's going to come down to, from a USA Cycling standpoint, of what are you trying to develop. And if you want world-class riders, you want riders that are going to be a Katie Compton and perform at World Championships, and you want courses, you want races that are similar to those types of things, right? It's similar. You look at talking a little bit with Dieter this week and some things about the pro road calendar, and you look at saying there's almost none, maybe one-day road races on the road calendar. And what are World Championships? One-day road races, right? So what are we trying to develop if we're playing in stage races and criteriums? We're not playing to the strengths of the people that we want to do those races. I think today plays to that level, right? It puts it in a really hard, maybe a little long, but that's what it is.
It's almost like an American audience is contradictory to developing on the world stage. And how do you package to an American audience to where it's exciting and the mainstream people who are just sports fans who are not cycling fans, like how do we get this to them, but at the same time, to cater to that world stage, whether it's the one-day road races or hard cross races or whatever it might be.
I completely agree with that. Unfortunately, as Americans, we do have a short attention span. We like to see short plays where a lot of action happens, and days like today, it's guts and it's glory out there. Like those guys are bleeding from their eyes. They're dying 1,000 deaths. It does not get any harder than that for a 1 hour effort. Like that's
no doubt, and I think the hardcore fans understand that. You know what I mean? Because that's what we love.
And that's hopefully that's the base that we can develop. I think that by hosting events like this, by getting people together and saying, hey, look, come look at this sport. Hopefully we can like gain some appreciation as a as an American people, as a people who like we do produce good cyclocross races here. I mean, Katie Compton is an absolute legend of the sport, and awesome to see her win today.
Well, that shifts us now to Worlds, I guess, because that's what's up next. So now we look at who we have and how these finishers go, and what do Hyde and White and Hecht and Katie and Ellen and what do they have to offer at that World Championship, right?
Great to see Rebecca Fahringer up there today. That was a hell of a ride, hell of a result. That was very impressive. Yeah.
Well, and obviously Gilbert pulling off a silver, right?
Oh my gosh!
Yeah. We talked about that being a little bit like, hey, somebody's going to come out of the woodwork here, and definitely she did. Keogh had a fine ride. Fahringer had a ride I think that we maybe kind of expected, not in a negative way, but that she was going to be there. Probably not in a top couple steps. She was going to be there, and she wasn't. And I think arguably she maybe had a really good ride coming as close as she did to Noble. But Gilbert, kind of smashed her way into this top five, and I don't think anybody was really on the lookout for her.
Yeah, that might have been the ride of the day.
I think so.
You know what I mean? If you got to pick one, it's like Gilbert's got to be. Right?
You
Both
got
races.
Guys like Dillman coming up, it's big too.
He's had an awesome second half of the season here.
Yeah, getting a fourth like that, pulling out of there. I mean, in the middle of the race, I think we all got a little excited when we saw Clark coming up there, fought his way up the floor.
Yeah.
It looked like he was putting it on, right?
Yeah.
He was gonna crack, maybe even catch Hecht at some
Yeah.
point,
Yeah.
right?
He was
really
right
put it
there.
on.
Hecht,
Yeah,
you,
for sure.
Yeah.
So I think, kind of addressing back to kind of your point is that there was a lot of change up.
Yeah.
When you start looking back at how that race unfolded, where you had guys really surging forward, you had guys falling back, you had change, they had maybe a rough spot, a rough patch, but they came back, they fought over it. I think this course really kind of brought out a lot of it. I think we would have all liked to see more riding over running, but it added this element and really changed up this race a lot.
For sure.
And I think maybe along with it is something to bring up is how diminished the course was because of how many races were run.
Yeah, that's true.
As a factor of not having a course that's a little bit less chewed up than that from
For sure.
5-6 days of racing.
And what I think you saw today, though, between your two winners, back to kind of your question a moment ago about UCI races, your world championships, there was a lot going on and a lot of mix-ups, but kind of the pre-race favorites won their respective races in Compton and Hyde. And if you look at on a world stage, Compton's been second in the World Championships. You've got Hyde, who has been in the top 20. I forget
He's
his
in top
last-
15.
Top
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
A steady, consummate, high finisher there, and that's who won the races. We've got a lot of great talent just behind them, and days and courses like today kind of highlight that, and kind of all that motion in the third, fourth, fifth, sixth. But I think the two best athletes there who have the best chances of competing at the World Championships at that UCI top level, I think they showed those colors today, and it's for the rest of those competitors to kind of take note and say, well, these types of courses, this type of a slugfest, that's what's going to do it.
I think it's always important. Riders make the race. Talked that a little bit about with Katie the other night, right?
Yeah.
And now when you have this bulk of riders that are close. And I think you can see from the top 10 today in the men's race, certainly, and at least the top 5 of the women, top 7 of the women. A lot of change up, a lot of things. But the riders are making those races because even on a really hard day, they're close enough
They're
to
still
make changes.
pushing,
It wasn't
yep.
blown apart from the start
Absolutely.
line. We didn't see lap 1, that was it. Everybody was just in their own groove,
right.
just riding, running, seeing individual riders. We saw overtakes going on. So it says a lot about the quality of the whole field.
And the depth, yeah, absolutely.
The depth is good. So, but it'll be interesting to see what the world selections are going to be and who's going to be there. And it's only a few weeks away to kind of reload.
Yeah, it'll be fun. I hope these riders get a good little reset, maybe a little taper before they come in, and can use that similar fitness from nationals to just really take the stage on the world platform.
For sure. Yeah, we'll be rooting for him for sure.
No doubt.
And as Kerry told us at Rochester, he says, we're coming for the Belgies, right? He was talking about the juniors, and he said, we're getting better every single year. He goes, 10 more years, we're coming for them. So,
bring the heat, Warner.
every
Bring
single
the heat.
year. So,
But I think we saw that with the earlier races, the juniors races. Man, there's a lot of talent in the works.
sure.
We saw it in the elite race, we see it in the juniors races, and that's where it has to start.
Yeah.
Development programs and
Nice to just a quick. We've mentioned him a couple times, but nice to watch Gage Hecht decide to instead of racing U23s, just jump right in it with the elite field and really pull off a pretty spectacular result. It was kind of talked about as to whether or not he could kind of take the cake and win the elite field. I think that he's on the come up for sure, and it's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, he's like 20 years old.
He's so young.
You know what I mean?
He's so young.
He's got some time.
And so is White realistically to be amongst those world class.
A full road
season. Yeah.
And he's a full-time college student.
He's
not messing around.
Everybody in there has a lot going on for sure. But great to see some younger talent like that really racing up and it'll be fun to Worlds will be a blast.
Looking forward to it.
Well, we'll definitely have to get together and pontificate on our
For sure.
extremely erroneous picks. As
I know.
the closest I got was I had Clark as fourth, and he was in fourth for a while. I dropped out, and I had a Powers as sixth. He ends up fifth. So I think we all had the mix of who the
mix
top
and match.
five were.
Yep.
But,
Yep.
It's good to kind of see some things come to fruition, see some things happen out there. Steve Hyde proves me wrong. I thought he wasn't going to have the stuff. Thought Warner was going to be on his day. It wasn't. Hecht was about where we thought, second, third. I think we all had him kind of pegged for
Sure.
definitely in there, definite race factor. I think he did that, and I think White kind of really pulled out the stops.
White rode a great race today.
That was amazing.
Yeah,
really great race.
I really.
And he had a nasty crash there, like
Early
midway
on,
through,
Early on, right into the barrier.
and came back from that.
I think that's a
Top
really
seven.
testament to him and Hyde, though, pushing each other,
Completely.
right? They
Yeah.
weren't holding off the gas. They were pushing each other. And when you see even Hyde with a small gap take a fall like he did going over the bars late in the race,
Tim
he's
mentioned.
trying to open that gap because he knows Curtis is fighting back.
And they had it over Hecht. Yeah, it was the two of them battling for that stars and stripes.
You know,
That's the good
and
stuff.
as much as roadies, we were kind of, maybe pushed Cross in terms of like, hey, we'd like to see some of those road dynamics. We got to give Cross credit in that sense where, the team isn't riding for one guy that
Correct.
we see. We're not seeing one rider hold back for that champion to help his teammate. We're seeing two teammates slug it out.
It's-
that's pretty cool in the
It's
cross.
truly an individual sport. It's nice to see two riders on the same team say, hey, I'm glad we get to wear the same jersey, but you know what? The gloves are off.
It's
The
nationals,
gloves are
we're
off.
going at it.
Yeah.
Especially, I think you'd see maybe a little different on a faster, flatter, maybe drier course where it's more of a grass criterion.
Yeah,
I
sure.
think you'd see a little bit more of that team dynamic.
Yeah.
But here
Perhaps.
it's just like
The attacks and the
you got it or
counters
you
and-
don't. When you're slogging through
100%.
you could maybe take somebody's line here or there, but for the most part,
It's a race of attrition, man.
it's not coming down to that one corner. It's coming
Right.
down to you being able to just consistently being able to push those pedals. And you saw a lot of, if people aren't training for some of those specifics, if you aren't looking at like low RPM, high pedal force, getting ready for a course like this, you missed the boat.
You missed the boat.
Looks like it
5
looks like
miles
I would-
per hour, yeah.
Right, I was going to say it looks like Drew Dillman was doing some specific training.
He was doing it,
riding.
yeah.
Eric Thompson was. Some of these guys were looking to like, what's it going to be like? What's that kind of course like?
For sure.
And you could see that they really capitalized and were shining.
Yeah, both
in some of
riders who have had come on into the late season cross with spectacular form and a lot of good results, and maybe some slightly more dark horse results, but not completely unexpected. Certainly, Dillman has been right in the mix the last handful of C1s.
But good depth, right?
Great
That's what we
depth,
want.
great
We want-
depth.
That's what we want to see.
dynamic,
It's exciting
depth.
racing.
You got it. And,
For sure.
we don't want grass crits, and I think we didn't get one.
That's true.
There was
All
no
right,
grass.
Well, we're gonna wrap up here. We're gonna thank our sponsors once again: Nut Butter, Dirty Bike Gravel Series. Get signed up. Legacy Bikes. Get your kids your balance bikes. Gnarly Monkey for the production here. Hook and Spoon, come out, check out the restaurant. They open back up in April. It's amazing here. Amp Human Performance, Wolf 2 Components, Full Moon Vista Bike Shop, Tryon Bike, Psychopath Bike Shop, Hincappy, and Peppernut Sauce. So thank you guys for supporting this. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank Todd and Jake and Tim for hanging out here and the whole party we had. So we hope you enjoyed this edition of Pack Chatter, and we'll catch you next time. Thanks a lot.
Thanks.